This program is for informational and educational purposes only. This program is not a solicitation or recommendation for any investment or security. Investments or securities mentioned in this show may or may not be owned by NEPSIS Advisor Services. NEPSIS Advisor Services is an SEC-registered investment advisor. Tune in to Sunny 1320 and 1450 Wednesdays at 11:30 to Journeys with Joni. You'll learn more about the financial decisions we make every day and how we can gain financial clarity in our lives. So join Joni Rometta Wednesdays at 11:30 here on Sunny.
Welcome to Journeys with Joni. My name is Joni Rometta, and I am here today with my co-host, Mark Clark. Join us as we travel on the financial road to clarity. I'm excited about our program today. Mark and I are with NEPSIS Advisor Services. We're located at 6230 University Parkway. You can reach us by phone at 941-361-1484 or on the web at www.journeyswithjoni.com. Mark, how are you this fine day?
I am relieved.
Aren't you? Today is like tax relief day. Oh, what a relief.
Every CPA I know is out fishing somewhere.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
taking the day off. Oh, my. Isn't it nice to have our taxes all done and filed for last year?
Yeah, hopefully you didn't file an extension and you're rolling your eyes at us. But no, officially 2013 is now in the rearview mirror.
Absolutely. And the first quarter of the year is in the rearview mirror of 2014 as well.
You ever get the feeling that, time is flying by?
It is flying by, actually. You don't have to get that feeling. And the older we get, the faster it flies.
Yes, that's true. And, to kind of correlate that back to what we've been talking about last week and then into this week is planning. Time goes by in the intent. I think it was a second grade teacher. I remember the first time I heard the round to it. She gave us a circle with a to it in the middle of it. And she said, this is a round to it. Now you have no excuse. You have a round to it. Now that you get a round to it, it's time to get your butt in gear and do some planning, get your house in order, whatever you want to call it. So,
absolutely. Yes.
Tax season is over, and we're here today to talk about that round to it.
Yeah, well, we need to get around to it. So as everybody has done their taxes, you found out that you should have given more last year maybe and reduced your tax liability. If that's true, there's still this year, and we still have 9 more months of the year that you can make your plans to do something with that. Our investment process at NEPSIS has the 4 components, and one of them is the flexibility, and we do the tax loss harvesting. Mm-hmm. That's something that people can be looking at in anticipation of next year, because, once that calendar turns from 2014 to 2015, again, it's going to be too late to do anything. So we have 9 months to plan, and it's important that you start planning today.
I agree. Last week we had on Bob Collins from the National Christian Foundation.
He was awesome.
He was. We
could have gone on and on and on with him.
We're going to have him back.
Absolutely.
And, stay tuned, not today, but the conversations we're going to have with him in the future are very compelling. They're very powerful. I would almost go to the conversation of it's generational changing. When you do things with intent, when you come out of the box with a game plan and you're focused and you have it written down, then you have the opportunity to have impact. And that's what, in talking to Bob and watching the conversations and the stories he's had over the years, we've known him a long time, you really begin to see the change in people's families as they've started to be intentful with not only their planning, but their giving inside their plan. Mm-hmm. And I think that's just so cool.
Well, it's hard to teach the next generation, and it's hard to do the planning and to know what you can and can't do if you don't have a plan. So if you don't have anything written down, you haven't taken a snapshot of where you are and what you have, then how do you make decisions going forward? How do you make a decision whether or not you're going to have a tax bill next year, or are you going to be in a problem next year? How do you know if you can afford to give to anybody if you don't know what you own?
You hit the nail on the head, Joni. And typically, and we're all guilty, so I'm preaching to myself as well. It's you get to the end of the year and you say, I wish I would have, or I should have, or I thought about this but never put it into action. But now here we are with 9 months left in the year. with the opportunity to have intent, not only about our planning, but about our giving plan, and to be very focused on what we're going to do. Because we've all been in those situations where we sit there, whether it's in church, whether it's at a charitable dinner, or some opportunity where we've gone, man, I wish I knew how this had an impact in my overall finances.
Right. Well, and Bob had the conversation last week that his daughter saw a performance by somebody from China and came home and said, Dad, I want to give.
That was a very...
Dad's got to know that he can give, because you got to teach the kids what to do. And if Dad doesn't know what his situation is, then he doesn't know whether or not he can even help his daughter fulfill that need that she had to give to somebody.
And you think about what had to go into the thought process of a young person in order to come home from a school event and say, Dad, I want to make an impact to this organization because of the difference that they're making in people's lives.
Right.
So Bob and his family have had to, over time, it wasn't something they just happened to have a conversation over dinner the night before.
Oh, no.
It was over time that they've said, we're going to be intentional about our giving program, our giving plan as part of our overall finances. And I just think that's so cool.
Well, we all make a list when we go to the grocery store to plan what we're going to buy. We know Christmas time comes up, the holidays come up, or birthdays come up. You know what you have a plan on what you're going to do. If you're going to plan a birthday party, there's certain things that you need to do in a timely fashion that you need to do those in to get that birthday party to happen on the date that it's supposed to happen. So if you're going to be intentional about those kind of things, those little things, you need to be intentional about the big thing, which is the whole plan that allows you to do all those little plannings in between.
I agree. And, one of our catchphrases or our slogans is investing with clarity or planning with clarity. And, I don't know whether we're getting older or, we're having an opportunity to see things through different eyes. But as you do encounter the clarity message, as you begin to see things from a different aspect, how can I make an impact on others? How can I take the children and grandchildren that we have and cause them in a positive way to have a greater impact on the kingdom, on their community, on the people that they interact with? And you do that with having an intent. That way you do have clarity in your planning.
And I think a lot of us, not to get political here, but a lot of us don't see a momentum going in a way that some of the older generation's not really quite happy with the younger generation in, and there's a lot of apathy in some of this little millennial generation. I have one at home too, so you can see that they don't see things the way we did. They haven't experienced what we've all experienced. They haven't experienced what their grandparents experienced, and sometimes those grandparents aren't around to tell those stories. So we have to start taking it upon ourselves to intentionally plan, to intentionally teach our kids how to give. And the best way to do that is to be givers ourselves.
I agree. And we got a break coming up here. And folks, if you'd like to give us a call, one of the neat things about Joni and I is the way we work with the rest of our team is the opportunity you have just to come in and sit down and chat with us.
We'd love to have just a conversation. No obligation, no charge. Absolutely. Because you know what? You've got to trust us, and we've got to trust you, and there's got to be some kind of a connection that you and I have, that we can help each other do what you want ultimately as our client to do. So give us a call, 941-361-1484. You can go to us on journeyswithjoni.com. We have workshops coming up. You can send us an email. Great way to get in contact with us. Journeys with Joni. We'll be right back.
Do you know what you own and why you own it? Join us for our next workshop to learn about investing with clarity by calling 941-361-1484 to reserve your seat today. Joni and Mark look forward to discussing the philosophy, strategy, flexibility, and transparency, the 4 pillars of investing, with NEPSIS Advisor Services. Call today, 941-361-1484. That's 941-361-1484.
Welcome back to Journeys with Joni. Just before the break, Mark and I had given you our contact information. Let's give it to you again. It's
one more time.
941-361-1484 and journeyswithjoni.com, where you can send us an email and check out our workshops. So just before the break, Mark, we were talking about intent in giving, the next generation, Last week we had Bob Collins on from National Christian Foundation, and we were talking about donor advised funds. And that's one of the things that, one of the vehicles we have to help our clients make a decision that they want to give, but then, put it into a fund, something that they can see where they can actually donate cash. You can also donate assets, things like that.
Yeah, there are so many things. We referenced, if you heard the show last week, we referenced the picture that Bob paints in his presentations where he's got an iceberg. Mm-hmm. There's actually a slide that's got an iceberg. And so
I can close your eyes and picture this iceberg with the water. You're looking at it from the side, and you can see this big chunk of ice underneath the water.
And you're not in the Titanic.
And you're not, no.
You're not in the Titanic.
We're not in Titanic.
Okay.
No.
So underneath the water is
a lot of ice.
A lot of ice, but very little ice is on the top.
Correct.
And when you do not have an intent in your giving plan, in your financial plan, you tend to focus on just what's above the surface. Mm-hmm. And it's really what's below. And the National Christian Foundation is a great resource. The Donor Advised Fund does a couple things. Allows you to be, if you so choose, to be anonymous.
Correct.
A
lot of people like that.
They do.
And I think it's very important that people who want to give have a way to give without putting their name on it, because so many people don't want people to know where it came from. And there's nothing wrong with that.
I completely agree with you. And that's one of the, call it inhibitions or things that prohibit you or stop you from giving, is to go, mm-hmm. I don't want to write a check because I'm going to get inundated with emails. I'm going to get phone calls. They're going to be begging me for money.
Right.
This is something I'm passionate about, but I just want to be silent and be able to go away.
Behind the scenes. A lot of us, me included, I like to do things behind the scenes. I don't do it for the glory. I don't want the recognition. I just want to do it because I want to do it. That's exactly what a donor advised fund lets you do. It
is powerful. In our fund, I have given to different people that I know run a ministry that I didn't necessarily want them to know that I supported them for a lot of ways. Sometimes the relationship, or for a lot of reasons. Sometimes the relationship is too close. It's too much of a friend. I don't want them to feel, one way or the other. All those emotions that you're thinking mm-hmm. of and as you're listening to this conversation all come to light. And the Donor Advised Fund allows us to be very anonymous. As Bob referenced, it's free. There's no charge for it. Powerful tool.
Very powerful. And another thing I think is really important, too, because I have a lot of clients that are in this situation. They're not sure who they want to give their money to. Their accountant says, if you'd have given, X amount of money, away in charity, you would have saved X amount in taxes. Well, it's really attractive to do that, but now I'm on the spot, and who do I want to give my money to? I have no idea. There's a million charities out there. I mean, I could give to a whole bunch of them, but I don't know which ones I really want to give to. So a donor advised fund allows you to make that tax decision by putting the money away. And then once you're away from that, and you have the time, you can say, okay, I want to give a little bit here and I want to give a little bit there, or I want to give a lot in one place or another place. It gives you that flexibility, and flexibility is so important.
Yes, it is.
I mean, that's we believe that in our investments, but I think in your financial plan, it's also important too. You have to be flexible. You have to be able to, because you know what? A passion I have today may change 5 years from now. Mm-hmm. Your children may have a passion that you didn't know about. And as soon as they find out that they have an ability to make a difference, maybe that passion that they've sort of kept quiet about will come to life, and you can actually see things change in the next generation as well.
Yeah, I know you've been in these conversations, Joni, where you've sat down with people and maybe the conversation's about giving, maybe it's about other planning elements, but we've been there where we've mm-hmm. given them information and they've said, I didn't know you could do that.
Right.
I didn't know that was available. I'll tell you, that's one of the areas of giving that people don't realize, and that's where National Christian Foundation comes in and really serves the community in the opportunity that they have to bring things up that you probably have never heard of. You don't know that you have an option until you sit down and talk about it. And that's where we're talking about, today, have an intent with your giving plan. Do you have a giving component in part of your estate plan and part of your financial plan? I know most people have, they give every month, whether they give at church or they're doing things, but some people do have a giving intent. But this is another way we can take it to a whole nother level, which I just think is awesome.
Well, and you go sit down with your state attorney. It's nice to give things after you're dead and gone, and they've had your final party. But wouldn't it be nice to be able to make an impact while you're alive and see some lives changed, see things happen in your community that once you're gone, you don't get to see that stuff. So to make an impact not only on your financial plan and your taxes and your family, but you can do it on the community as well. And
it's more powerful to give than to receive. It really is. And we can talk about scriptures and all kind of things, but at the end of the day, if you don't put the plan in action, you're missing one of the most awesome blessings that you could ever receive. And especially when you get the kids and the grandkids involved, you're putting them in an environment where you're really teaching and you're passing it down generationally to where you're showing them how to have impact in others. Mm-hmm. Because that's the only thing that's really going to survive this earth is...
Well, and two, we have a generation coming up that's not quite as maybe thankful comes to mind. It just popped in my head. As Thanksgiving, we all sit around and what are we thankful for? I mean, there's so many things that most of us are thankful for, but there's that whole other area that needs us to help them and to be able to have that feeling of making a difference.
I agree.
Once you've done it, I mean, it's like that. The adrenaline gets running. It's sort of like after you run that race and, you've actually crossed that finish line, the adrenaline that's just rushing and the feeling that you have for that. That happens in giving as well.
Yeah, it really does. And, when we come back from this next break, people I know are listening to us or people are wondering, how do I get started? Is it painful? Does it cost me money? Is it a lot of heavy lifting? Where do I have to go find a bunch of paperwork? We're going to talk about how you can get started and how simple it really is when we come back in the next segment. We'll finish the show out talking about that.
Absolutely. And you can reach us at NEPSIS Advisor Services, 941-361-1484 or at journeyswithjoni.com. Journeys with Joni. We'll be right back after the break.
Do you know what you own and why you own it? Join us for our next workshop to learn about investing with clarity by calling 941-361-1484 to reserve your seat today. Joni and Mark look forward to discussing the philosophy, strategy, flexibility, and transparency, the 4 pillars of investing, with NEPSIS Advisor Services. Call today, 941-361-1484. That's 941-361-1484.
Welcome back to Journeys with Joni. I'm Joni Rametta, and just before the break, Mark and I were talking about the donor-advised funds, the intent to give, the next generation, and the things that our clients have been doing and are looking for. And one of the things was the donor-advised funds, and we just before the break, Mark had said something about, how difficult is it? Is it easy? Does it cost me anything? Who does all the heavy lifting? That's part of our planning process when you're working with Mark and I. And actually, I don't do the heavy lifting. Mark does.
We have so many resources. The heavy lifting is really, too many times, and this is my opinion, too many times people think, financial planning is about the numbers and the ticky-tack. It's really not. What it's really about is about you, the person. Mm-hmm. And then how do you, you never start a building project by saying, I have a saw, a hammer, and some nails. What can I build out of it? No, that's the ticky-tack tools part. Those are just part of the equation. You back up and you say, what do I want this house to look like? What do I want this project to, what do I want my vacation to look like? What are the experiences? And you talk about where you're trying to go and what you're wanting to do, and then you make all the pieces and components fit into it.
Correct.
And I think too many times we're worried about the financial planning aspect of the ticky-tack tools and the numbers. The other thing we're very good at is not talking in a lot of industry jargon.
Right. Well, and planning isn't painful. I mean, I don't think most of the people that we've done planning for, I mean, we've done a couple of plan reviews in the last week. And I think that, maybe they were dreading the conversation when they first came in, but that's not how they felt once they sat down, and it's definitely not how they felt when they left.
No, one of our rules is if it's not fun, we don't want to participate.
It's got to be fun.
Yeah. And so we have a lot of fun doing the planning process. And one of the things that we talked about early on in the show is, yesterday was tax day, and 2013's in the rearview mirror, hopefully. And 2014, we're in the middle of the beginning of the second quarter here, but it's well underway. And it's time to take an inventory. Know the condition of your flocks. I think that's in Proverbs 27. I think 23, if my memory serves me correctly. But take a look, because tax rules, tax laws, tax amounts have changed.
Right.
I mean, good Lord, it's just been a crazy year from the IRS standpoint. Who knows what's up and what's down. But the fact is, things have changed. And one of the plans that we're involved in many years ago when they put the plan in play had certain intents. And now that things have changed from the tax law standpoint, they have other options. They have other opportunities. Planning is a living, breathing. It's really a relationship. It's about saying, hey, will you come alongside me, Mark and Joni, and work with me to achieve my goals? And those goals are going to change.
Oh, absolutely.
Over time, they will change.
Yes.
And we did talk about the donor advised fund. And one of the neat things about the donor advised fund is the flexibility, not only from the sprinkling. Bob Collins was on last week, and he talked about the flexibility of it, but the sprinkling of money allows you to sprinkle the gifts out to the organizations over time when you feel compelled to do it. And if the good Lord calls you home and there's a bunch of money left in your donor advised fund, now you've trained your family, your heirs, on the ways that you wanted them to give. And, there are always things that get in the way and cause us not to give or not to have an intent to do things in a certain way. And most of the things that get in the way are lack of planning.
Right.
And
because you've got to have a plan, you got to have a vision. And if you've never shared that with anybody, it's not going to work. So if I have a vision and I have a plan and I want to make a difference in some way in this world before I leave, and I don't ever tell anybody about it, it's never going to happen.
I heard another radio personality talking a few weeks ago, and the conversation was when a family member's called home. Nobody ever says, you were the best business person, or you were the best architect, or you were the best baseball coach, or no, it was the relationship that you leave behind and the impact. And were you a generous person, not just with money, but with your time and with your relationship, and what impact have you left on others? Where they're going to say, because I guarantee you, they're not going to say, I miss this person's $100 that they give me every week. No, they are going to miss the relationship. But what have you done with that opportunity, and how can you correlate your planning with a generational impact that you can leave on your family? And that's what our goal is. Right.
And so when you sit down to plan with us, you come in the office, you provide us with the information, and we package it all together. So there's really no heavy lifting. I was kidding. Mark doesn't do the heavy lifting either. There's teamwork. Really no heavy lifting. It's about teamwork, because, those of us in the office, we all have our gifts. Some of us can do other things better than others. So, you do what you play to everybody's strength. And, as a client of NEPSIS, we want to help you do what you want to do with your funds, get them to where your dream is. It's not our dream.
Nope.
So this isn't about us. It's about you. And so therefore it's not cookie cutter, because so far I haven't found any two clients that want anything the exact same anyway. I mean, even in a husband and wife, they don't want the same exact things either. So because we're all human, and there's nothing wrong with that.
That's very true.
And I think in a husband and wife situation too, both people can be satisfied. If you plan.
That's true. In investing, you've heard us talk before, and I know we're closing out the show here, but we have 4 key components of the investing: the philosophy, the strategy. You've got to have flexibility, and you got to have transparency. Those 4 components are as equally important in investing as they are in planning.
Right.
And when you put those 4 elements in play in your plan, including a giving plan as part of your overall plan, the opportunity that you have to impact people whether you want them to know you had the impact or whether you want to do it as we've talked about anonymously.
Quietly, right.
Nice and quiet and sit back and go, I'm thankful that I was in a position to make this impact. And just to watch the fruit grow and mature from that opportunity is just huge. So, people have an opportunity to come in and sit down. How do they find us? And I know we've got some workshops coming up there on our landing page. I love our landing page title, journeyswithjoni.com. That's, if you're driving down the road, you can remember that, journeyswithjoni.com. That's why we picked it.
That is why we picked it, driving down the road. That's
Nobody
cute.
wanted Moments with Mark, so that's why it's Journeys with Joni. How do they find us, Joni?
You can give us a call at 941-361-1484. We're located at the corner of University Parkway and I-75 on the east side in the Home Bank building. And you can see us at journeyswithjoni.com. Thank you for sharing your time with us. We hope that you learned something today. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to give us a call. We would love to meet you at our next workshop. So check that out on the website, RSVP to 941-361-1484 today. Journeys with Joni will be back next week. Until then, thanks for listening.
This program is for informational and educational purposes only. This program is not a solicitation or recommendation for any investment or security. Investments or securities mentioned in this show may or may not be owned by NEPSIS Advisor Services. NEPSIS Advisor Services is an SEC-registered investment advisor. Tune in to Sunny 1320 and 1450 Wednesdays at 11:30 to Journeys with Joni. You'll learn more about the financial decisions we make every day and how we can gain financial clarity in our lives. So join Joni Rametta Wednesdays at 11:30 here on Sunny.